Hey, what's up? Dan from Metro Nova Creative, and I'm excited to introduce you to Talk Shop, an interview series where I will interview clients of Metro Nova Creative, learn about how they started their businesses, the ups and downs of all of that process, and we'll just get a little bit of a deep dive look at some of the great entrepreneurs in the area. And it's going to be really fun, and can't wait to get started. Today's episode of Talk Shop is brought to you by Metro Nova Creative, and we'll be interviewing Donald Patterson, which is one of the founders of CyOak Consulting, a local government contractor that specializes in geospatial technology and contract work. Donald's a really awesome guy. Really excited to have an opportunity to talk to him. And let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dan. I'm Metro Nova Creative. We do brand development, and we're based here in Fredericksburg. And wanted to just kind of do something new and cool and interview some of our clients and get a little backstory and, put a face to the name, so to speak. Really excited to start with here, Donald, and learn a little bit more about you. If you want to tell us about, CyOak and that business, and we can kind of go from there.
Sure. So my name's Donald Patterson, and I retired from the Marine Corps back in 2007 after 25 years of putting on a uniform. After that time, I got kind of tired and just didn't want to put on a uniform anymore, so I put on a button down or a t-shirt and shorts, and that's how I operate. Right. So I got into CyOak. I did some contracting work for the government after I retired, and I constantly saw where A, the money was going, B, lack of influence, as just being listed as a warm butt in a seat.
Yeah.
And I just got to a point where, hey, I could do this, and I think I can do it better.
Yeah.
And I partnered up with a person who kind of thinks like I do, who's a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. And away we went. CyOak was born in 2019 after several years of development and figuring out exactly what it was we had to do for our business. 2019, we opened our doors up, and in 2020, we got our first contract. Well, towards the end of 2020, we got our first contract.
And so a big bulk of the business is the geospatial intelligence type of stuff. And, without hurting anybody's brain, give us the kindergarten version of what that means.
Sure. So GeoInt is it's a relatively new term that's been coined across the community. But it's basically, and I just tell people basically, if you think of Google Earth, think of Google Earth for the government. It's satellite pictures, and it's just that the government does a little bit more than what Google does.
Yeah.
So that's basically geospatial intelligence in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the civilian market probably hear that and get really scared, surveillance stuff, and I think, and even the first time I talked to you, I was like, this is terrifying. But then I really actually looked in it and read and understood what you guys did, and I think it's interesting where you see okay, well, if you're putting in infrastructure and stuff like that, you need to know what the terrain is like, and,
exactly.
The consistency of the soil and all these, really interesting things that kind of tie into this. And
exactly. Well, geospatial, the geospatial side, it's a layering effect. So it goes everything from infrastructure to environmental, population pattern, trending analysis. You can really get a lot out of it. Like we always say, everybody and everything is somewhere. It's located somewhere. And that's basically what geospatial intelligence or geospatial anything does. It puts somebody in a place. Yeah. Or something in a place.
Yeah, and it was definitely Definitely interesting. And so, did you guys kind of get into that, like you said, like just being in the government contracting space and realizing there was that need for this particular kind of niche products?
Yeah. So I have been doing this pretty much the majority of my Marine Corps career.
Mm-hmm.
I got into imagery
Mm-hmm.
as an imagery analyst in the Marine Corps very early on. In fact, when I came into the Marine Corps into this field of imagery analysis, at that time there were probably about only about 100 people in the entire Marine Corps that did what we did. It was a very scientific and very technical occupation, and as you can see, it's led to some really good things so far. I've enjoyed my entire time in it. It gives you a lot of chance to see a lot of different things from a different perspective.
Yeah, I bet. You kind of, I would imagine you definitely get to see some interesting places, and
Oh,
um,
you do, and you get to work with some really interesting people, and lots of scientists and a lot of really smart guys out there.
yeah,
Through this occupation, I was introduced to algorithms and writing algorithms and doing all sorts of weird, crazy things with pixels. So,
yeah, I would imagine, and just working kind of globally too, and just different cultures and stuff that you kind of come across, and learning. I think that's probably what's really exciting to me, is just kind of like learning a little bit about the locations that you might be working on, and hearing kind of the history of the places, and and I would imagine, you talk about like environmental impact studies and stuff like that. So I would imagine you get to learn, quite a bit of cool stuff. So
oh, oh, you really do. I mean, like you said, it's a global thing. You can learn a lot about people, a lot of different places, and when you think of it, most people think, from that perspective, we're not the only ones who do this.
yeah,
So other people and places do things with the same technical, apparatus, but they have different approaches to how they get there.
yeah,
And that's always interesting to see, because oftentimes there's, several different ways to get to four from 2 plus 2, 1 plus 3. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it is pretty interesting to see what happens and what goes on.
Yeah, you talked about you know seeing how people get from A to B, or how they get to four and stuff, and that was something that surprised me. I think the first time, maybe first or second time we met here at our shop,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sitting down, and then like you have this kind of assumed this assumption of who you're talking to, and government contractor guy, retired Marine. I'm like, okay, I get an idea of who this person is, and then you threw like, oh, we want to build a skate park, like, and I know you like race cars and stuff, and so that I think is probably one of my favorite parts of running Metro Nova, is like, you get to meet so many different people that have so many different kind of backstories, and how they got into their business. And we do logo stuff. We'll do a logo design for businesses, and for me it's always cool, because like you get to be in that line of history of that business. Like you get to be in part of that,
Right.
as a logo designer,
Right.
and you get to learn like, oh yeah, but the founder was really into building a skate park, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, tell me a little bit more about just kind of some of your like passion project stuff, because I think that really sparked interest for me, and hopefully one day we'll
Yeah.
get to work on that together. But
Oh, most definitely. Well, I mean, I will tell you from the get-go, I am not the in the box suit wearing tie kind of person.
yeah,
I am totally outside the box. I like to think of myself as thinking outside the box. I have, we've developed this company in a method. I mean, heck, we came online in the middle of a pandemic. So, the virtual business has been our model
mm,
ever since we started. So, thinking outside the box has always been, probably my mantra, to come
yeah,
up with different ways to get to things, because I don't think that I don't think that there's a set way to always do something. There's always a way to improve it, go beyond it, or something else.
Yeah.
So that's how I've always started. How did I get into a skate park? So my sons, I've got three boys, two of which are avid skaters. Well, one's kind of growing out of it because he's getting old now, but the other one still skates on a daily basis.
Mm.
My foray into the skate park came out of the interest with my youngest, because at the time my oldest had moved on. So with my youngest, we had gone to, like all of the big tournaments around on the East Coast. We have spent, I have no clue how much money in skateboard decks and skating shoes, which seem to wear out like every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, that's how I got all my interest in. And plus, one of the things, hanging out with him and a lot of the other kids that skated at the time, you see the kids, long hair, beards, baggy clothes and everything. And a lot of people would look at them and go, what is up with that bum or whatever,
Mm.
Failing to actually meet some of those kids. I mean, some of those kids are some of the brightest kids I've ever met.
Yeah.
We had, there was a guy, he had the long beard and the hair and everything, and you would swear he was homeless. Dude was a master electrician.
Yeah.
So I mean, never judge a book by its cover. That's one of the things I've gone through. I don't try and judge anybody else by the way they look or whatever. I just kind of meet them first, and, see what happens first.
Yeah.
And that's just the way we've gotten along.
Yeah, and I think that's, I do my best to, admittedly, like I said, I went, okay, Marine, government contractor, okay, and then I was like, well, let's go sit down and actually talk and get to know each other, and so, and as somebody, in the, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, was really involved in skate culture and stuff and skating, and yeah, I mean, like, not, beyond just, who those kids grew up to be, but just, that particular hobby was always just some of the best things that ever happened, early on in childhood, and like the people that you meet and the friends you make and stuff, and as far as them wearing their shoes out every 20 minutes, tell them just put a little duct tape on it and move on, they'll be fine. But
Exactly.
But it was such, in the mid 90s and stuff, it was, we didn't have internet and things like that weren't kind of just the regular, you didn't just go online when you got home. I think we had, what was it? It was CCM or the skateboard, the catalog that get mailed to your house, and then we'd look through it and be like, all right, this is the deck we want, or this is the shoe, pair of shoes that we want, and then we'd either have to like mow lawns and save up money to try to order it, and then maybe it showed up. So when you did get, when you did get your stuff, like when you got your board or your shoes or whatever, your back then your World Industries T-shirt or whatever it was, like it was like sacred, it was like. I don't know, it was something special about it, and then, how excited you were. And I remember, like, if you broke a deck, it was, like, heartbreaking. Like, it was, like, the worst possible thing.
Yeah. And now everybody's collecting the broken decks.
I know.
My son's got, like, piles of decks broken in half,
Yeah.
So they become art at this point.
Yeah. I think there's a woodworker in town here in Fredericksburg that does, like, broken deck sculpture art stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to date myself or anything, but when I remember skateboarding, it was those old hard plastic banana boards.
Yeah.
And the only trick was to see how fast you could go downhill.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was it.
The Dogtown kind of era type stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, so I remember, being a kid and I worked at a Van skate park, and we had some guys from Baltimore, some like pool skaters and stuff, that kind of started in that era in the 80s and stuff like that. And they would come in, and it was just always cool to watch them just like tear apart a pool. We had a really big pool in the park that we were in, and just to watch those guys skate that bowl was insane to me. Just like the speed that they would have, and that stuff just kind of stays with you. So. Definitely.
Those boards at that point were kind of archaic anyway, compared to what they're doing now.
I know. Well, very cool, man. So I know a big part of, your kind of goals with CyOak and stuff is to really create that kind of inclusive and open-minded, think outside the box kind of corporate culture stuff.
Most definitely.
Which I genuinely really do appreciate. We try to kind of keep things pretty open and loose here too at the shop, and and try to remind our staff that, like, you're a person first and my employee second. You've got life happens, and
Exactly.
and so we try to be really really flexible. So it's nice, when we see our clients doing the same, and I think that's something that a lot of people are really starting to understand about, the employment market. Is just especially now with COVID and people being able to work from home, and you kind of figure out some alternative ways to run things. So, I would assume, meeting a lot of those skateboard kids and just kind of having those life experiences has kind of guided you in that direction too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and I've always thought, kind of similar to you, that people are people first, and even growing up in the Marine Corps, if I have the respect for that other person, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have the same amount of respect for me. If I treat them one way, they'll treat me the same way. That's how I look at it. That's how, that's the basis of this business. If I can make this business good for other people, right? I think there's enough of the pie. Do I want to go out there and crush people, to gain business? I'm not so sure you have to do that. Maybe there was a time in business, with the crushing and stepping on people. I don't know. I'm not going back. I'm worried about going forward. And I think at this point, there is enough out there, whereby you can have business and you can have a business that not only solves a problem, but relates to people as well.
Yeah.
I figure if I can take care, sort of like you take care of your employees, staff, family, whatever you want to call it at this point, and they'll help take care of you.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I've always said. I'm really protective of my team. My wife, who does our HR and payroll, says, like, sometimes to a fault, but like if we've had situations where a client has been just clearly abusive, in the relationship, and I've said, hey, I think we're probably going to have to move on and end our relationship. And I think there's this idea, the client is always right, and and yes, obviously, like, the client is what helps you stay in business, but if you don't kind of stand up for your team and like set some of these expectations of appreciation, respect, and then your team's not going to stick around, and then you don't get to play the game anymore. And so I'm a big believer that if exactly, like, take care of your people and they'll take care of you, and definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a firm believer that we all rise together.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to just push me up; they're going to help push themselves up as well. So, as a company, we're all growing together.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I talk to a lot of people, in consulting stuff, or just dealing with people starting businesses, and everyone wants to talk about leadership and. Did you read Simon Sinek and blah, blah, and all these things, and all those things, and that's great, and I always say, you should lead from behind, and people kind of go, what? No, like, you lead from out front, you show them, and I'm like, no, you lead from behind, because if anybody falls behind you, then you're not, you gotta have to, like, sit from the back and move the flock forward and go through it with them, and
exactly.
So I'm big on that.
At this point, when I was in grad school doing organizational management, leadership and organizational management, there are tons of books out there. I mean, everybody's an expert on leadership and management. Well, if that were the case, we wouldn't have half the problems we have now.
Yeah.
So I was always, books are great, but it's that life experience, field experience, I think, that really, really matters. Yeah. And unless you've been through it and know how to deal with it and have dealt with it successfully, you can read all the books you want. You just got to get in there and do it.
Yeah, I really do agree with that, and I do my best to try to think also, like, okay, if I'm making a decision that, affects my employees, like, I have to stop and think, like, how would that decision have affected me as an employee before, when I worked at this job or that job, or, hey, I remember my boss said or did this that time, and how did that make me, so I think like if you don't understand empathy and you don't understand how to kind of, put yourself in other people's shoes, then it doesn't, you can, like you said, you can read all the books in the world and it'll be irrelevant, because if you can't stop and think like, if the roles were reversed, how would I feel about this decision? And sometimes, as a manager, leader, whatever you want to call it, you do have to make a decision that isn't going to be wonderful for everybody. But I think it's important at least to take 2 seconds to think of that perspective, because you could find a new way to approach a problem, in those moments. So
exactly.
And I think leadership is like being a parent, right? Like everyone has advice for new parents, and it's like, that doesn't, no. Every kid is different. Every house is different. Every life experience is different, and all you can do is just say like, be open-minded and take it day to day.
There you go. And that's what we do every day. I think both of us do it pretty much the same way. Just take it day to day, and okay, what problem next? And let's go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, it was really good chatting for a little bit and kind of getting to know you a little bit more, and
same here.
Hopefully we can do some more of this stuff. I think it was kind of a cool opportunity, and if you want to, let our viewers, our future viewers, know how they can find you on CyOak, or any new projects or interesting things you got going on, or anything like that.
By all means, no projects we can talk about just yet. That's always coming. But yeah, if you want to reach me at any time, our website, www.cyoakconsulting.com. Go on the website. We've got email address, phone number, or if you just want to read about CyOak and see what we're doing, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Donald. Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and let you go here and let you get back to the rest of your day, okay?
Much appreciated. Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Thanks.